Hello there, careers leaders, and happy new year to you all. In this video, we are going to be introducing our annual apprenticeship surveys that will be launched this half term. We hope that this helps you understand the benefits for your school in participating, and we'll share some tips and advice. To help me run through this, I've got Anna Morrison from Amazing Apprenticeships and Jane Witherall, careers leader at Rickmansworth School. Hi Anna, hi Jane, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
So we've been running these surveys through our Careers Hub since 2019. I'm sure many of you have been involved in this in the past, but for some of you, this will be a brand new process. It's part of our strategic aim as a Careers Hub to promote apprenticeships and technical education, which also aligns very nicely with Hertfordshire's wider skills agenda. Anna, you've been involved in this process since the very start, since 2019. So firstly, would you just explain your role and how the surveys have helped us holistically?
Of course, yes. Hi. So Amazing Apprenticeships, we work nationally to increase and raise awareness of apprenticeships and technical education. We work with around 4,500 secondary schools and colleges across England, but we're actually based in Hertfordshire. So our offices are in Hitchin. I have lived and worked in Hertfordshire my whole life and been through the education system in Hertfordshire as well. So we're very committed to Hertfordshire and doing what we can to have that impact in our local community across the county. So we've worked really closely with the Careers Hub, with the LEP, with many employers and many establishments over the years to help to look at all things around apprenticeships and technical education, including these two very exciting surveys that have run for a number of years now. There are actually two different surveys. Do you want me to go on to that?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Yep, great. Okay, so the two different surveys that we've got are a parent and carer survey and a teacher survey. And these two surveys are really designed to do a bit of a deep dive into those two different audiences, the two different communities that will be linked with your establishments, and to better understand their confidence and awareness levels around apprenticeships and technical education. So historically, these surveys have given us a huge amount of insight, and it's been really brilliant for us to be able to track and see what's going on. So the parent and carer survey has been the longest running survey that we've had. And it started kind of before the pandemic. So we've been able to track parental and carer awareness and confidence in the different options post 16 and post 18, and then slightly more recently, I guess, the teacher survey, although still has been running for a number of years, where again we're able to look, working with subject level teachers to try and understand their confidence and awareness levels in the conversations that they are having with students and their families about the different options that are available. So I've got a couple of slides that will highlight some of the findings that we've seen over the year. So if I start with parents and carers. So these are from last year's survey, the 2024 survey. So it gave us some really important headlines for the county, including that 70% of parents and carers would encourage their child to consider an apprenticeship. This is particularly important for us to track and measure because, as you will know, Hertfordshire, the majority of our schools, if not all, have a sixth form, and there has always been quite a strong lean towards full-time university previously. So trying to establish apprenticeships as a good option for parents and carers to consider with their children has been really important. What we found in the 2024 survey actually was that parents and carers who have a personal connection to an apprentice, so either they know one, perhaps in their family, or they work with one, they were 5% more likely to encourage their child to consider an apprenticeship. We did find that 1 in 10, so 11% of parents and carers feel confident about the apprenticeship application process. So this is a concern for us. This is where it shows us some really useful data in that we've got a high level of intention and interest from parents, but we've got a low level of confidence in how to convert that interest into an apprenticeship start potentially. And then we can also see that there's a really big difference in the awareness levels of the different post-16 and post-18 options and choices. So right from kind of A-levels being the top awareness area, right through to HTQs being one of the lower awareness areas. Through the teacher survey, we actually found that 8 out of 10, well, so just over 8 out of 10, 84% of teachers were reporting to us through the survey that they are having regular careers conversations with their students. So that is a significant amount of activity that's happening at subject level through classroom discussions and tutorials. We did find through the survey that teachers feel least confident in accessing local labour market information, we call that LMI, and in using examples of local employers through their curriculum. We did find that 20% of the respondents were more confident in talking about apprenticeships. They were more confident in talking about applying for full-time education or employment than talking about apprenticeship applications. So that tells us that teachers are more familiar. That probably won't be a surprise, but are more familiar with some of the more traditional academic pathways than apprenticeships. And encouragingly, over half of teachers felt that they would like to receive further information through a website to help them to build their knowledge and confidence about those different pathways. So those are just some of the headlines of the really useful data that we are able to achieve and look at a county on an annual basis. Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks for explaining that. Now, you've spoken about the benefits for us as a careers hub in knowing all this really rich information, but actually the main benefactors of completing these surveys are the schools themselves. So it's a great opportunity now to bring in Jane. So Jane, I think you've always been involved in these surveys since 2019. Certainly last year, Rickmansworth was the school that generated the most responses, which is fantastic, and principally why we've asked you to come on here today. So why is participating in these surveys something that you've been keen to push at Rickmansworth as a careers lead? Oh, you're on mute.
Stop. We recognise that parents and carers obviously have a huge influence over students when they're making decisions post 16 and 18. We wanted to understand that more really, and understand traditionally as a school, most of our students take the university route from sixth form, and actually post 16, most of them go into our sixth form. So we wanted to understand how much they knew about apprenticeships, and if they didn't know, what was it they needed from us. It was also really good to understand their thoughts and attitudes towards apprenticeships generally, and to understand just where our teaching staff were with their knowledge in terms of apprenticeships and what conversations they were having.
Sure. Okay, great. We'll delve into that a little bit more as we go on. Anna, just talk everyone through what's the process then from your team writing the survey in the first instance to aggregating the responses and generating the reports that come out at the end.
Sure. So we work closely with the Careers Hub, and we review each of the question banks on an annual basis. So at the moment, we are in the midst of kind of rewriting those questions and trying to ensure that they reflect the very latest in government policy as well. So, for example, we are kind of now increasing information about T-levels and HTQs and those question points within the survey so that they really reflect the data that we need to know. Once those question banks are agreed, we then set up individual collector links for each of the schools, and those will come out to each of the schools from the EC. So there is nothing that you need to do. It will be a personal collector link for your establishment, and you will then be able to share that in the first instance with parents and carers, and then a few weeks later you will receive a different link for your teacher survey. We take care of everything. We then on a weekly basis will be analysing the responses that come in and liaising with Gareth and the team, so that if anyone's doing brilliantly, we'll let you know. If anyone needs perhaps to send out a reminder to the different audiences to encourage them to participate, then we get that information to you as well. Then what happens is we will do a huge central analysis piece of work. So my team will be working through the data, trying to identify those trends and highlight the key learning points. We will create one central report on the parent and carers for Hertfordshire and one central report for teachers. However, schools that hit a certain threshold of responses will receive an individual report. This is really useful because you can then use this to benchmark your setting against the county-wide establishments, but you do need to get enough responses in to be able to generate that individual report.
Sure. And then Jane, because you were one of the schools that did receive that individual school report last year, but I mean, Anna's made that sound like it's incredibly sort of quick and non-time onerous process for you as a careers leader. Can you just confirm that? Because I think it's really important that the other careers leaders watching this at the moment actually hear it from you.
It is really just as simple as that. You receive the wording, the link. Initially, I send out a letter from myself to all parents and carers, and then I use the head's weekly bulletin to just chase it up and remind them that the deadline is getting a bit closer, and equally use the staff bulletin for the staff survey, and remind them regularly that, you know, we'd like their responses and how important it is.
Yeah, and then typically, because it's about, we close the survey during Easter holiday, so it's there for about 6-7 weeks. How frequently do you send reminders? Do you just do the one at the start, or is there sort of a couple of diarised moments when you
diarise them sort of fortnightly? Yeah, so it goes out initially as soon as I receive my link and my wording from my enterprise coordinator. I then send the letter out, and then I diarise to just chase it up via the heads weekly, because we try not to send too many letters to our parents. We try to keep it all in the one.
Yeah, no, that's exactly that. Right. So I mean, hearing that from you, I'm really glad, because it was always our intention that this process would be really quick for careers leaders and not take up a lot of your time being able to do with it. Jane, you received the highest number of responses last year. There was 147 Rickmansworth parents responded to the survey, so well done. As a result, you received this individual school report, which we got to you probably right at the end of summer term. So can you tell us, once you've received that report, what do you do with it, and how's it helped you with your strategy within your careers programme?
Well, once we get it through, I sit down with my line manager, who is the head of sixth form, and we look at what it is the students and parents want from us. And what we discovered was there was a high percentage that wanted more information, but equally they wanted more support in the process. So we use that to guide us with our careers programme. And the first thing we did was introduce the parents information evening using Ask, and we invited along some of our past students that had taken the apprenticeship route, or had taken the university route initially and decided it wasn't for them, and then opted for the apprenticeship route. So we had lots of different types of applications going on, twin track and you know, only the apprenticeship route. And we found that we had an overwhelming response to that first meeting. And we did a Q&A afterwards with the apprentices, and we also had one student there that had opted for university and gave his reasons why. And one of the biggest concerns that came out of it was students missing out on the university experience. But what one of our apprentices was able to highlight was they were part of a cohort, and they still went to university, and they still had that experience, that network. They weren't isolated, they weren't on their own, but they also had the wealth of experience from those employees around them. So that was really useful. And then that necessitated me spending a day a week in sixth form, and I run application surgeries, search and research surgeries. And we've now got a dedicated site just for apprentices, apprenticeship opportunities here, and information for the students to access via Google Classroom. And that seems to be working well, because we are seeing the applications via that route going up, and there is more knowledge out there for them.
Okay, well, that's really, really positive here, and that's exactly the sort of impact we hope that this report will have, and definitely vindicates why, as a school and as a careers leader, you've really made sure that you've participated in these surveys to get them back. Anna, just to close up with, could you talk us through the main themes and any new questions that will be on this survey this year, just so that careers leader understand what's actually in that survey and what their parents are going to be asked?
Of course, yeah, and we tend to try and keep the questions quite similar year to year, actually, with only kind of tweaks, and that's so that we can have that trend analysis and we can look year on year at what's happening and what parents are telling us. But some of the key areas of focus for us this year, we really want to try and understand with parents which part of the apprenticeship process do they feel less confident with, and how can we try and intervene? So is it that they perhaps don't feel that they know where to search for the different employers and which vacancies are available? Is it the levels of apprenticeship and they're just focusing on degree apprenticeships and kind of missing out on some of those other levels? Is it around the recruitment process and a kind of lack of understanding or confidence in assessment centres and interviews? So we want to try and get into some of that detail to see if we can shift across the county only 1 in 10 feeling confident, and how can we work with establishments to try and really get into some of the detail as Jane has described. With teachers, I think there's a few changes coming, particularly with the changes to the Gatsby benchmarks that we're all going to need to reflect as well this year. So let's look at the curriculum integration and let's try and understand how we can better work with subject level teachers to increase their how they embed information, not only about apprenticeships, but technical education as well. As I mentioned earlier, we now know that T-levels and HTQs are here to stay and will be growing. So it's important that that is reflected within our teacher surveys as well as apprenticeships. So yeah, a couple of headlines there, but broadly things will stay the same from year to year so that we can track how things are changing and how confidence is growing, hopefully.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, right. So thank you. So just to recap on everything we've spoken about so far, so your enterprise coordinator will send you a survey link to go out to parents and carers in early February, usually to coincide with National Apprenticeship Week. All you then need to do is send it out, ideally within a couple of reminders through until the Easter holidays. You'll receive a separate link as a school to send internally to teachers. That's likely to come out just after February half term, so we can give you a bit of space between the pair of them. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So you can come directly through to us or more likely through your enterprise coordinator. Our target this year is to receive over 3,000 parent and carer responses and ideally 400 plus teacher responses. And any help that you can give us individually within your own schools is very, very much appreciated. But we really do hope, as you've heard from Jane, that this will have a very, very positive impact on what you do internally within your school as well, within your careers program. So hopefully that all makes sense. Jane and Anna, thanks so much for giving up your time this morning. Thank you everyone for watching this. We really hope it's helped to explain this process and the apprenticeship surveys to come out in 2025.